Christian faith and fiction, inspirational reading suggestions, along with chats about the Christian faith. The following episode is an audio version of a video that I recorded for my YouTube channel, Christian Faith and Fiction. If you would like to watch the video rather than listen to the audio, you can do so by clicking the link in the show notes. Please do share your thoughts by commenting either on the video or on the relevant blog post, links in the show notes. Hi, it's Lou from Christian Faith and Fiction. I want to share with you some Christian fiction authors that I would like to read more from. I have tried to make that sentence make more sense, but we're going with that. These are Christian fiction authors that I've read books from before and would like to read some more books from in the future. Hopefully sometime in the future I will make another video of the Christian fiction authors I'd like to read for the first time, but these are ones I've read before and liked and enjoyed and would like to read more. If you are new to Christian fiction as a category, then hopefully you might find some authors here that you haven't heard of or you haven't tried before. If you are much more familiar with this genre category, whichever you want to call it, then you might be able to help me by letting me know which of these authors' books are your favourite ones. So as we're going through, let me know in the comments, firstly, if there's an author there that you haven't heard of or you haven't read before that you'd like to try. Secondly, if you have a favourite book by one of these authors. So these are not in any particular order. So first of all, Karen Whitmire is a writer of historical fiction, I think, mostly. I would really like to read all of her retellings. So I've read A Texas Christmas Carol, which was a retelling of A Christmas Carol, and Fairest of Heart, which was a retelling of Snow White. So I'd like to read the other ones that she's written of those. If you know of any more other than the series that she's got going out at the moment, if you know of any of her backlist books that are also retellings, let me know in the comments because I'd like to know. Melody Carlson is an author that writes romance. She might write some other things as well, but the ones I've seen have all been contemporary romance. She writes a lot of Christmas books, so I have read a few of her books, but there's a whole load of older books that I have not picked up, and I would really love to know if there are any really good ones that you think I should pick up from her sort of more older previous years. Sarah Monson was an author that I picked up last Christmas and I enjoyed her, another contemporary romance book that she wrote there, so I'm interested to see what she's going to be writing in the future. I'm not sure if she published anything independently before, but yeah, I like to see what she's going to write in the future. Pepper Basham, writing in contemporary romance and historical. I enjoyed one of her contemporary romance books, but I liked the Freddie and Grace mysteries even more, so that was her an historical mystery series, so I need to read the third one of that one and also two of the other contemporary romance in the series I've read. So yeah. Sharon Hink is fantasy writer. I have read Dream of Kings, one of the best fantasy books that I've read. I really enjoyed that one. It was kind of a retelling of the story of Joseph from Genesis. I've got 3 of her other books in the Dancing Realms trilogy. I've got them on my shelf to read, so I really want to get to those because I think every single one of them won an award. I'm really hopeful that I'm going to like those ones. Melanie Dickinson, I love fairy tale retellings, so I'm definitely going to be trying to pick up all of the rest of her books. I've read quite a few, so I'm going to be continuing with her books. I like medieval time, and it's she writes medieval YA romance, but also some Regency stuff which I haven't tried. At least I think it's Regency. Historical anyway. Nicole Deese writes contemporary romance, and I've read 2 of her books and both of them I gave 5 stars to, so I definitely want to pick up some more of her books. They tend to be have some slightly heavier notes to the storyline and the character story, as well as a romance as well. So yeah, definitely a complex mixture of things in her 2 books that I've read. Lindsay A. Franklin writes in fantasy. I have read the first book in the the Weaver trilogy. What's it called? Anyway, the first book is called The Story Peddler. I've read that book, and there's another 2 books in that, so I need to pick those up. Joanna Davidson Politano writes historical and quite often historical mystery romance, I think. I read one of her books, which was Finding Lady Enderley, and I gave that one, I think, 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, so definitely want to pick up some more of her books. Andrew Peterson writes fantasy, middle grade. He writes the Wing Feather Saga. I've read the first 2 books in that. I definitely need to complete that with the other 2 books and the spin-offs as well, because I really love it. It's very funny and quirky and quite eccentric. Julie Klassen writes historical fiction. I've read 5 of her books. She's currently in the process of publishing her current series on Devonshire Shores, and I've read the first 2 books in that. I gave the first one 4 stars, the second one 5 stars, I think. I like all of her sort of characters, and in some books they have more of a mystery going on as well as the romance elements and the family elements. So I've enjoyed those so far. Jocelyn Green writes historical fiction. The only book I've read by her was The Metropolitan Affair, which was a historical mystery set in New York. I definitely want to continue with this series that she's currently bringing out. I like that time period, and also like historical mysteries and romances. You can probably tell from this list that I like that type of thing. Michelle Greep, also a historical fiction writer. I really liked her Dickens kind of inspired books. I would like to read more of those ones from the past. I'm not so drawn to the current series or the most recent series that was more a bit like Dracula, I think it was. Was it Dracula and Frankenstein type inspired? The gothic things a little bit darker for me, but the other stuff, the earlier stuff that's more has a feel of Charles Dickens, I definitely would like to read some of those. Nadine Brandes writes in sci-fi and fantasy and historical fantasy, alternate historical, I don't know what you call it, but I would really like to read her Out of Time series. I think that was quite a classic series back in the day. So yeah, I'd like to pick that one up at some point. Morgan L. Bussey writes in fantasy and steampunk. I loved the Mark of the Raven trilogy. I also enjoyed the Skyworld duology. I think that's what it's called. I would like to see what she's going to write next, and also some of her previous series as well. I'd quite like to pick up at some point. Christy Cameron writes in historical and romance. For me, she is the queen of multiple timelines. She writes not just like dual time, but sometimes like 3-4 different storylines and different time periods, and sometimes 4 perspectives into different time periods. It's quite complicated, her writing, but I really enjoyed that, and I think she's been getting better at it as the books go on, but I would like to read some of her previous ones as well as her new releases. Another author that I really like who does dual time is Amanda Dykes, and I'm interested to read what she writes next. I really enjoyed Set the Stars Alight by her and Whose Waves These Are. She writes with quite a lyrical style, and it's a style that I really appreciated. Rosanna M. White writes in historical fiction. I have read 4 of her books and I gave them all 5 stars. So I don't know why I haven't kept up with her newest releases and newest series, but I definitely need to get that read at some point. There's so many books to read, but I would like to read some more of hers. Rachel Hawke writes in romance and historical. I need to complete and continue with the Wedding Dress series. I've read that first book, which is like dual time in contemporary and historical. But I would also like to read some of her other contemporary romance and fairy tale-esque type of modern romance books. Betsy St. Armand writes in a contemporary romance, the ones that I've seen anyway, and I've enjoyed those ones. They've been upbeat, fun, lighter on the Christian side, but they've been cute. So I don't know if I've seen anything coming out by her at the moment, but I would like to read some more in the future. James R. Hannibal writes mystery and suspense thrillers, and in fantasy I have read 2 of his thrillers as well as 2 of his fantasy books, and I enjoyed them all, and I need to complete that fantasy series. The 3rd book comes out this year and I think it's the final book, so yeah, I will definitely be completing that one. Lindsay Harrell writes mostly contemporary romance. Her book Secrets of Paper and Ink was a dual time period, but then there was a lot of spin-off Christmas books from that. I think there's been 4 so far. I'm really hoping there might be another one in that series, because I really enjoyed her Cornish contemporary romance. Some of them were clean fiction, some were Christian fiction. Francine Rivers, a very well-known Christian fiction author, and probably the first one that I discovered. I would definitely like to read more of her. She writes historical, biblical and contemporary romance. She's quite widespread in her genres. I loved The Masterpiece by her. That's contemporary romance. People are always talking about the Mark of the Lion series, so that is one at some point I would like to pick up, but it is a little intimidating because they're all quite big books and there's 3 of them. So yeah, someday I would like to read that. Elizabeth Camden, I have read the whole of the Hope and Glory series, as well as her newest book, which my review for that won't be up until the next book review video. So yeah, but I did enjoy all of those. They're all 4 or 5 star books for me, so I definitely want to continue with the current series, as well as maybe pick up some of the earlier ones. They're in a sort of time period set in cities as well, which I tend to enjoy quite a lot. Kate Breslin is a historical fiction writer. I read Far Side of the Sea a few years back, and that was one of my best books of the year then. So I haven't read anything else by her, so I definitely would like to pick up something by her at some point. That one was like a wartime romance, spy-ish kind of book. So yeah, more of that would be great. And the last person I put on my list for now is Jen Turano, who writes historical fiction. I only recently read a book by her after saying for years that I was going to read one of her books, and I did enjoy it a lot. It was very funny, it was very upbeat and quirky, and yeah, I definitely want to continue with that series and maybe pick up some of the previous ones as well. So let me know in the comments if I've mentioned 1, any of your favourite authors. Let me know about that. 2, which are your favourite books by those authors? 3, have you picked up any new ideas for authors? Also let me know in the comments. In the description I will link my blog post where I have links to all of their author pages, so you can get much more information about them, about their books and the things that they write down there. Okay, I hope that was interesting, I hope that was helpful, and I hope you're having a really great reading week. And I pray God blesses you and your family, and until next time, bye. Thank you for listening to the Christian Faith and Fiction podcast. If you would like more information, you can click the link in the description. Don't forget to subscribe on your podcast app to make sure you catch the next episode.